Hey there. The Unwired Enterprise Asset Manager is a role-based application that allows technicians to execute their maintenance activities from the convenience of their mobile device. In this demo, we're going to see some of the most important features of this application, like creating notifications, executing work orders, examining the function location hierarchies, accessing the related documents of assets in an offline mode, and filling detailed forms. So let's dive straight into this demonstration. When a user first logs into this mobile application, he sees a dashboard which gives him a summary of all the activities that have been planned for him on that particular day. So this technician has just one work order to execute on this particular day. Apart from that, there is also one notification associated with the order, 19 spare parts and 19 technical objects in the context of the plant that the user is actually working in. So first let's look at the assets which the user is responsible for, and we can do that by diving into the technical object style. So when I get into the technical object style, what I see here is a list of all the function locations that are relevant for this particular user. I can select a function location, get into the details, look at the general attributes, the location, the responsibility. I can look at all the sub-equipment and sub-locations. I can also navigate into the sub-locations if I want to, come back, look at some of the historical details, documentations if available, so on and so forth. Next, I can just use this toggle button at the top to get the same view for the equipment. So when I click on the gear icon, what I see is a list of all the equipments that are relevant for that particular technician or operator. Similar to the function locations, I can select any one of these equipment, get into the details, look at the general data, manufacturer details, responsibilities. If there are any task lists associated with the equipment, I can see that too. Sub equipment if any, bill of material if any, historical maintenance, and associated documents. The documents is something which is downloaded onto the mobile device for offline use. So when there is no connectivity in the field where the technician or the operator is operating, they may have the need to access these documents. These documents can be from SharePoint, they can be from OpenText, Documentum, or in the SAP database, does not matter. All of these documents can be downloaded to the user's mobile device for offline use. So what you're seeing here is a PDF document that basically describes the procedures to maintain a particular forklift. Apart from the documents, the user can also refer to the historical maintenance. So from the contextual menu, I can say get the history, and then all the historical maintenance that has been carried out for this equipment is downloaded to this user's device. So we have a bunch of orders and we have some notifications that have been reported of this particular asset, and I can always go into the details of this and then look at the maintenance that has been carried out on this particular asset. What I can also do is, if my list of equipment is quite large, in order to be able to locate the equipment that is of interest to me, I can either use a free text search. So I can say truck, or I can use the feature to scan a barcode or a QR code and identify an equipment quickly. So if you also have barcodes or QR codes or RFID tags associated with the equipment, we can enable the identification of those assets very easily using the scanning functionality. Not only do we have this list view for equipment, we can also look at the equipment in the context of the function locations. For that, we just have to use the tree view at the top of the screen, which brings up the equipment hierarchy. So when you expand the locations, what you see is a list of all the function locations and a list of all the equipment which is installed within each location. Some of these equipment also have a bill of material associated with them, and those can also be viewed as a part of this tree view. It is also possible for us to navigate into the details of this particular equipment from the hierarchical view. And these equipments also provide the same details as what we saw for the previous equipment. Consider a scenario wherein the operator is walking around in the plant or encounters an equipment which he finds a problem with. The user can identify that equipment by scanning or searching with free text, go into the details of this particular equipment, and then from the contextual menu here, he can either create a notification or create a work order. So when I create a notification, it brings up a form which allows me to enter basic information to identify what the issue is. So let me just start with a short text describing what the problem is, and then the notification type can be either a maintenance request or a malfunction report. So when I say it's a maintenance request, the number of attributes that I may have to fill is lots smaller than if it were a malfunction report. So in case of a malfunction report, I can enter additional details like the malfunction start, a breakdown indicator, and so on and so forth. If I switch back to a maintenance request, I don't have to enter those details. So we make it easier for the user to enter as little information as possible when reporting an issue. Failure modes, long text is additional data which is optional. Let's say it's a medium priority issue and I'm going to save it. And then it brings me to a screen which allows me to then take a picture and then provide additional context to a technician who may want that detail at the time of addressing the issue. So I hit the plus button against the image and I can upload an image from the gallery, or I can take a picture. I'm going to take a picture of my laptop here and then say OK. And then if I want to provide more information to the technician, I can edit this image. I can choose to crop it, or I can just say I would like to annotate it with some colors, trying to point out where exactly the issue is. This is the particular key. I can say spacebar. So once this is done, I can give it a suitable description and save it. So this notification that I've created is something which is visible to me in my notification list screen. And this notification, since it is still present on my device and not yet synced to the server, does not have a notification number assigned to it yet. And this is something which can be identified by the text new against that particular notification, unlike the other one in this list which has a number 1 zeros and 622. So that is a notification that is already created in SAP, but this new notification is still on my mobile device. Now when I'm done entering all the information that I want for this notification, I can hit the sync now button, which will then queue this notification for synchronization with the SAP system. Because the user may be in a field of no connectivity, it is not guaranteed that this information will be sent to the SAP system at that point in time. So when I hit the sync now button, it says syncing, right? My request has been queued to the SAP system. But now I can navigate into a different notification and continue to work on it. And when the application notices that there is connectivity, it automatically syncs that request with the SAP system, gets a response, and then displays that result to the user. So if I go back to the list screen, I see that the faulty keyboard has been returned back to the mobile device with a notification number 1000623. So this is how simple it is for any user in the field to report a notification with a particular asset. Once the notification is created, the maintenance team will pick this notification up and then plan the follow-up activities. The follow-up activities could be the creation of a work order, or just cancelling the notification, indicating that it's not really a problem which requires an intervention from the technicians. But assume that the technicians have to fix this problem, so the supervisor who receives this notification can open the notification and create a follow-up work order for that particular notification. I'm just going to choose order type. I'm going to choose some priority. The asset details have already been defaulted from the notification. I can choose a maintenance activity type, system condition, not in operation, and I can set the start date and end date for the completion of this work order. So once I have created this work order, you see that there is the documentation tab, which creates automatically a digital form for me to fill when I'm completing this. But before that, so the operation, fix the keyboard, this is already created. And then if I want to edit details on this operation, I can hit the edit button. I can enter some long text if I want to, or if I have to plan the duration of this operation, I can do that. I can say that the work involved to complete this operation is about 2 hours, and the normal duration is again 2 hours. Just going to save this. If I want to plan any materials for this particular job, let's say I need some spare parts to fix this particular laptop, I can say add spare parts, and then this displays a list of all the spare parts that are available on this device for me to choose from. So I don't really have a spare part called as a keyboard, so I'm just going to say let's choose alarm. Okay, so I did one alarm and I'm going to add it to the list of spare parts. And then if I have QR codes or barcodes identifying a particular spare part, I can also use the scan mode to filter for that spare part in this particular list, making it easy for me to choose materials when I'm planning a particular job. In the next part of the video, we're going to see how a technician goes about executing the job that has been assigned to him. As you can see from the dashboard, there is just one work order assigned to me for this particular day. I can look at the details of this job by clicking on the work order, which takes me to the details screen, wherein the details of the asset, the start and end date, and the operations or the tasks that I have to complete are listed out to me in a very intuitive manner. I can collapse each section of the operation to give me an overview of all the tasks which have to be completed, and I can expand each single operation to look at the details of what each task requires me to do. So the first operation has been planned for 4 hours. The planner has added 3 spare parts that I'm supposed to be using on this particular task. The second operation is planned for 2 hours, no spare parts assigned to it, so I don't have to make a trip to the warehouse to get them issued. Similarly, operation 30 has just 2 hours of planned work, and 40 has about half an hour of planned work. If I go to the Documents tab, I see that there is one form that is associated with this particular work order. So what are these forms? The SAP data model allows you to describe the job using text. So what do I mean by that? So if you have to describe what a technician needs to do in the field, it has to be these 40 characters of short text on the operation, or if I expand and go to the operation details, there might be additional long text which is used to probably describe this problem. So this operation does not have any long text because we have used the form feature, but if the user needed more instructions, one way of doing that was to provide all this as long text on the operation, or it could also be long text on the header itself. The advantage of using a digital form is that you can provide the same information to the technician in a much more structured manner. So we'll look at what this digital form can look like and how it benefits a technician in the field in executing his particular task. So as you can see, this digital form here has some information which has some fields which have already been pre-filled. There are some safety instructions for the technician to follow in the field, required safety equipment which the user needs to have when executing the maintenance activities, certain lockout tagout numbers which may have to be filled in the form at the time of executing the job. These are the tasks that the user has to do. So we have some preparation tasks which the user can mark off as completed, done. And then the vehicle on which the technician is actually going to be performing the maintenance is automatically pre-filled in the form and is not editable. So this is a mechanism by which we can pre-fill information in the form, which otherwise users would probably do in the field on a piece of paper, where there could have been chances of incorrect data being entered into the form. So we avoid all these issues by pre-filling as much information as we can into these digital forms. The fourth step in this form requires us to enter the hour meter, which is nothing but a measuring point associated with this particular equipment. So this will be a reading, which is basically the odometer, or the number of hours that this particular forklift has run. It could be a counter, it could be a characteristic value. So I'm just going to say this forklift has run about 4,000 hours, right? So that's a measurement that I'm making. A red asterisk against it makes it a mandatory field. So let's say if I don't enter that value, it tells me that, hey, this is a mandatory field and it has to be entered. So I can just go back there and then put in those values. So let's limit it to 4,000 hours. And then I can check the fluid levels. So the user can use these intuitive controls and then enter those values. Tire pressures, I'm just going to say 36 when it arrived and 38 after it was serviced. So the point that I'm trying to make here is the tasks that the user needs to perform in the field can be presented to him in a much more structured manner than what simple work order in SAP can. So we have some more checks here. So the user can mark it as pass or fail. And we can also have workflows configured in the solution, which allows you to kickstart backend activities in response to the values that you're making or entering in this particular form. So let's say if a certain test failed, I could automatically create a notification in SAP with that object part and damage code, right, indicating that this is the exact problem which needs to be rectified. At the end of the checklist, I can say that I'm the one who completed this operation, so I'm going to sign off. I can either do that, or I can just say click to sign, which will put in my number there, put in my name. I can also add inspection images to this particular form as a proof of inspection or the task having been completed. So I'm just going to take a picture of my laptop again. And once I've taken this picture, I can embed that picture directly into the form. So what this allows me to do is not only conduct the inspection, but also record the results of that inspection and keep all that information together in one place in this digital form for anybody to review it at a later point in time. The person who reviews it might be the supervisor, or it could be an auditing agency in terms of health and safety inspections, for example. So once this inspection is complete, I can hit the finish button to indicate that this form is completed in all respects and it can't be edited anymore. So if I go back into the form, you would see that it is in the edit mode and I can't change any more details on this particular form. It's finalized. And then the finish button on the form also indicates the same. Now let's look at the operation itself, right? So there are 4 operations for me to perform. So I can start with the first operation. I can say that I've started working on this particular activity, and I can do that by hitting the play button, which starts a clock for me to start recording time against this particular activity. Let's say at the end of my shift, I can just say stop, right? So which confirms a certain number of hours to this particular activity. Similarly, if let's say I'm going to work on another activity, activity number 20, I can hit the play button, and then let's say when I'm working on this task, I get called off for some other reason, so I can just pause the clock, and then when I come back from that short break, I can again start the clock and by hitting the play button, and the clock would start running again. Let's say I managed to complete this particular activity in this particular shift, I can indicate it by hitting the finish button, the green flag, which will create a final confirmation on this particular operation. I can also use a more traditional way of confirming time, which is by bringing up the time confirmation form, wherein I can enter the actual details of the work done, the number of hours, and if any comments, and then also mark this as a final confirmation. Apart from this, what the technician can also do is go into this materials tab and then look at all the spare parts that the technician may have to use during the course of his job. So I can see here that there are about 3 materials which have been planned to me. So if I look at this list here, there is 1 alarm that is required, 1 horn that needs to be replaced on this particular forklift, and there are 2 headlights that are required for me to replace on this. Once a supervisor has planned for me to use these 3 spare parts, I could issue them from the warehouse by hitting the shopping cart. So if I hit the shopping cart here, it tells me that the required quantity is 1, but I would like to use 1 at the time of executing my job in the field. Or if I look at the headlight, there are 2 required, and I can either hit the shopping cart like this and hit posting quantity 2, or I can hit the scan button. So in case the spare parts in my warehouse are barcoded or do they have QR codes, I can just go scan them, and that would filter and identify that particular spare part from this list. And then again, it would bring up the same screen. Then you can choose how many I really want to use or issue from the warehouse at this point in time. I can say, the posting quantity is 1, and then say okay, right? So that's how simple it is for me to issue spare parts from the warehouse. So once the job has been executed, I have issued materials from the warehouse, I have done my time confirmation. I can also go about echoing my work order, which is nothing but indicating that this job has been completed in all respects. So I can do that by hitting the finish flag, at the top of the screen. So when I hit the finish button here, it says, please complete the notification associated with this particular work order before you can close this order itself. So what I can do is I can navigate to the associated notification by hitting the notification number there at the top of my screen, which takes me to the notification screen. And here in the notification screen, I can report the forklift, the object part damage, and the cause for the fault in the field. I'm just going to say forklift, code group, the object part, let's identify it using these codes. The damage, again, let's identify it using these codes, and the cause. So once I have recorded the reason for this particular service request, I can then complete the notification, So once I've completed the notification, I can also go ahead and then decode the work order. So there's a prompt again. If I want to complete the work order, I'm going to say yes, and then I'm done. So once I'm done with the job that I'm executing in the field, this work order has a sync now button, which, just like the notification which we saw in the first part, allows me to sync this data with the SAP whenever the device detects connectivity. I'm just going to hit the sync button and then navigate into another screen just to show you that the notification associated with the order was also synced in the background. Not just the order, but also the related notification was also synced. That was visible with that orange button that you saw against the notification. So notification sync is also complete. If I go to the notification, you will now see the system status as no code, which means the notification has been completed. Let's see what happens now if I navigate back to the orders type. The orders list is empty. What this means is the job that the technician had been working on has been successfully decoded in the SAP system, and there is nothing left to be done on that particular job, and hence it can be deleted safely from the user's mobile device. The same is also reflected on the dashboard if I navigate back to it, and the order style indicates 0, which means that the user has completed all the activities and there is nothing left for him to execute on that particular day. As you can see, that's how simple it is for technicians to execute their maintenance activities using the Unvired Enterprise Asset Manager. In the next part of the demo, we're going to see how the Enterprise Asset Manager enables operators to capture KPIs for assets in their plant. As you can see in the dashboard, the operator has one round to execute on this particular day. So when I get into the round style, I see the description of the round, which indicates that it's to do with the weekly oil level checks of all the forklifts in that particular plant. When I go into the details of that particular round, I see a list of forklifts that have to be inspected for oil levels. This screen here gives you a summary of the total number of readings that have to be taken for each equipment and how many readings have already been taken. So 2 of 2 indicates that this equipment has 2 measurements and 2 measurements have been completed. Whereas if I scroll further down, I see that there is 0 bar 2, which indicates that there are 2 measurements, but none have been completed at this point in time. There are 2 tabs at the top, 2 options at the top, which allows you to look at all the measurements and then look at only those measurements which are pending at this point in time. Let's click on the pending tab and see what happens. So once I click on the pending tab, I'm only seeing those equipment whose KPIs need to be measured still. So when I click on take readings, it gives me the list of 2 measuring points which the operator needs to record. The operator can see that the previous reading was 11 hours. If he wants to see the historical readings, I can hit on the clock, and then it shows me that the first reading was at 10 hours, the second reading was on 1st August, again for 11 hours. And now I can take the next reading, I can indicate that it's about 15 hours. If I want to enter any comments, I'm free to do that, but it's not mandatory. I can save it. And then the oil level. Oil level, unlike the operating hours, is a code group and not a counter. So when I click on take reading, it gives me a drop down wherein I can select the qualitative measurement for this particular KPI. So I can say that the oil level is low and I can save it. I can indicate in the comments that there is an oil leak. And when I come back to the previous screen, this equipment would be removed from my list of pending measurements, and the next equipment that needs to be evaluated is at the top of my list. So that's how simple it is for operators to capture KPIs for all their assets that they're responsible for in a plant. This is in stark contrast to the inspection form for a forklift that we saw during the work orders execution, wherein we captured some specific KPIs during the inspection process. What rounds allows you to do is have a dedicated process to only capture KPIs and have no maintenance activities associated with that particular task. Rounds is a functionality that is targeted at operators and not the technicians, and hence you do not see any maintenance related activities as a part of the rounds execution for the operators. Similarly, the operator can take readings for all of the equipment in this particular list, and once all these measurements have been taken, the operator can hit the finish flag, which will technically complete the round or the work order, and then this round would be deleted from the user's device, just like the work orders. So when I do a takeover, I come back to the rounds list screen, and there's this familiar sync now button. And when I hit this sync now button, this round is submitted to the SAP system, and in the response, since it has been technically completed, this round would also be deleted from the user's mobile device. When I come back to the dashboard screen, I see that there are 0 rounds left for the operator to execute. That means no more activities left for me to perform for this particular day, and I can sign out. In the last part of our demonstration, we'll be evaluating the results of all the activities that we performed on the mobile device. Let's start with the SAP system. We will be using the display PM notification transaction to look at the notification that we reported from the mobile device. The notification was 10623. So when I open it, you would see the priority and the short text that we used to report that issue on the equipment number 1003. If I look at the list of attachments, you see that there is one image that is directly associated. And if I open that, you would see the image. So when a maintenance technician receives this notification on his mobile device, he will know exactly the problem that is being reported, and he would know what exactly to fix in the field. So these documents can be stored not just in the SAP database, but also in any document management system of your choice. It could be the SharePoint, OpenText, Documentum. So the application would upload this image into any DMS of your choice. Let us now look at the work order that we executed on the mobile device. I'm using T-Code IW33 to display this work order. The weekly forklift maintenance was technically completed by the user with a couple of time confirmations. Let's just verify that. If you look at the system status of this work order, it has been set to TECO, which means it is technically completed. And if I were to navigate to the operations and look at the actual data, you would see that we have a time confirmation on the first operation for 0 0.1 hours. And then if I navigate to the second operation, you would see that we also recorded 0 0.1 hours for the second one, but with the difference being it was a final confirmation. So which is why we have the no remaining work flag ticked. This can also be verified by navigating to the general tab, and you can see that the status is confirmed, whereas the previous operation, it was PCNF, which means partially confirmed. So let us look at the list of attachments. If I look at the maintenance order and go to the attachment list, I would see one form that we submitted along with this work order, which we can display by double clicking on the link. So you see that this form is not editable anymore because this form has been completed and finalized by the user on the mobile device. All the tasks which have been marked as completed are visible here. We have the vehicle on which the inspection was carried out. We have the meter reading that we did, 4,000. This should create a measurement document within SAP. We'll also verify that. And all the other instructions that were required of the user have been completed. What you also see is the technician signature and the image of the completed inspection as a proof of work having been successfully completed in the field. So any supervisor who would like to verify all the work that has been carried out in the field across multiple technicians just needs to pull out these work orders, and in just one single window they can have access to all the information to verify that the job has been successfully completed in the field. Let us look at the measurement document now for this equipment that was submitted. So I'm navigating into the equipment screen, and let's look at the measuring points. So we had two measuring points. The one that we completed on the mobile device in the form is the operations operating hours counter. I'm going to select that and then look at the last measurement document. So as you can see, the last measurement was for the counter reading 4,000, and that's exactly what you're seeing on your screen right here. Finally, let us take a look at the forms portal, which is used to report on all the forms that were completed and submitted from the mobile device. So what you see on my screen here is the Unwired Forms portal, or the Turbo Apps solution. So the dashboard gives you a summary of all the users who have been enrolled to use this application, the number of active users, the number of forms that have been completed or in progress, and you also have these dashboards which gives you a summary of forms that have been filled across various categories, the number of forms that have been submitted over a period of time. So all of these are, you get a very nice view of what's happening in the field. But let's take the submission report, and let's try to look at all the forms that we have been processing in today's demo. So I can choose a date range, saying that okay, let's start with the forms created on the 1st of August. If I'm looking for a specific form, I can enter that, and it'll show me all the forms that have been modeled in this particular system. But I'm not going to search for a specific form. You can also search for forms by status, so you can track forms which have been created, the ones that are in progress, and the ones that have been completed. So I'm going to pick all forms that have been completed. And as far as category is concerned, so these are all the various categories of forms that I have in the system. I can just say all categories. Categories basically gives you a mechanism to organize your forms for specific business processes. Like you may have forms for maintenance, you may have forms for HR, forms for logistics execution. So it's just a way of grouping your forms together. Now let's search for all the forms and see what we have here. So what we see here is that we have submitted two forms. Let's pick the one that was associated with the work order. So this is the form. It's the same detail that you saw when you opened this form from the work order. So you had all these tasks that were completed, the vehicle number, the measurement reading, and all the other details of the form or the maintenance activities that the user executed in the field. So this is quite important because not everybody may have access to the SAP system to be able to navigate into all those transactions and pull out each individual work order and then look at these forms. So what the forms portal allows users or supervisors to do is get a summary of all these forms that were processed in the field based on the status, and they can review it directly from the forms portal. And if they want some advanced reporting, it is also possible to export all these forms to third-party systems. Maybe you extract some detail from a form and then push it to a Power BI or any relational database. So all of those can also be configured on form submission. So we have a very powerful workflow engine that allows you to post-process these forms after submission. And these forms can also be downloaded as PDF documents, and can be emailed to various recipients. So this brings me to the end of the demonstration. Hope you enjoyed watching this demonstration as much as I enjoyed making this for you. Thank you all.